Uh, so, so let's jump to another big data type
Yep.
thing. Uh, okay, so we've got Googlebot.
Yep.
It crawls web pages. We've got XML sitemaps, and you can give Google one or a handful of text-based uh, documents that say here are our URLs for our website, or the best ones, the canonical ones. Uh,
Ooh, yeah,
for,
canonicals.
for a long time, we've had, or for a while, we've had Street View cars with multiple cameras and distance sensors, and at one point in time, they were stealing passwords from people's Wi-Fi systems. Or they, I don't think, call that stealing, but uh, we have science fiction type efforts, Project X type things like self-driving cars, which collect an incredible amount of data,
Mm-hmm.
much more than Street View cars. If a self-driving car sees a cigarette butt roll out into the middle of a road with smoke still coming off of it, it knows there's a problem up ahead. It's making that connection between that type of data and the possibility that there's a person who was holding that cigarette not very long ago. Uh, it collects an incredible amount of data. Google collects, I was talking about all the sensor data from phones. Uh, so your phone can tell when you're catching a cold 2 days before you do. The gyroscopes in it, the motion detectors, how fast you move, how steady your gait is, things like that are clues. Uh, Google purchased a company that involved three graduate students from MIT not long ago called Wavy. And they've done research where they've taken that type of sensor analysis a few steps further, including aggregating sensor analysis from multiple phones. So if you're coming down with a cold, the phone's saying uh, you're likely to have the flu, whatever. The next step is to see, I mentioned Bluetooth, can tell when there are other phones around you, when other people come into close physical proximity, because the phones have introduced themselves, they've shaken hands. Uh, so it can look at information like that. It can look at your emails. It can look at your uh, calendar, the appointments you make, the people you've expressly had contact with and met in person, the people who the Bluetooth tells implicitly who you've had contact with, and that type of information can tell when there's an epidemic, when a flu is spreading from one person to another to another. Now, what does that have to do with search? Maybe not much, but uh, when phones can tell a search engine that a bunch of people went to the same or are in the same stadium watching the same baseball game, uh, that type of information might be a little bit more useful. You know, not only for personalized search, but for advertising, for other things like that. So this sensor type information uh, really changes around the way that we might perceive the world around us. Uh, Tell us more about other people. Tell us more, give us better weather forecasts. Uh, uh, Track our locations better. Show alerts when we get to a certain area or location. Uh, so it's going to become a more heavily censored.
Well, you bring up an interesting point there about handshaking between phones. I mean, the idea comes to mind. It just seems something out of Hollywood, some movie of some epidemic starting, and the folks in Atlanta, CC, trying to determine who this person had been in contact with in this 24-hour period where he was highly infectious, and being able to log into big data to determine exactly who he had been within a certain radius of during a period. You know, it's just the possibilities are virtually endless, which is vocal. I'm not even sure you could call them a minority. They're concerned about the privacy concerns of government in particular.
Right.
But there's value to be had there. You know, there's certainly benefits to be had there.
There is, and one of the patents that came out from Google within the last 6 months talks about their collecting and monitoring information from location-based services and putting that information into quarantine so that it can't be accessed by other people, and if at all possible, removing personal-based information from it, like the endpoint of a trip that you may have taken, if that endpoint's your home, things like that. And those types of things might be quarantined, while other aspects of them might become public. Google is collecting that type of information. It can inform them of when somebody might have hacked into your system, got your password, things like that. So if Google sees you using a location-based service in one part of the country, and then sees you using a different location-based service in another part of the country far away, within a matter of seconds or minutes, it knows something's up with that, something's wrong. Those location-based services can be tied to things, or those location signals can be tied to things like Google Plus as well.
Well, we already see some of that now, even from Facebook. Right. I have seen, and I say even from because I don't expect a lot from that particular front, but I've seen oftentimes when I log off of one of my computers and then onto a mobile device or another computer, it'll ping me. It'll say me, hey, we see that you've recently logged on from a new location or from a new device. Mm-hmm. Are you aware of this? Would you like to add this to your profile? Or, so it just, I find myself, if I call you on Skype or I send Gabs an email, all of this data gathering now, suddenly I'm not simply in a conversation with you. Now I'm tied to all of the entities with whom you have relationships, as you're tied with all of the entities with whom I have relationships. So we see this, even though we happen to be blissfully unaware of it during our conversation, which had only that purpose, just to communicate one piece of information between you and I personally, we're suddenly part of this Borg-like entity nest that is harvestable for a tremendous amount of information, some of which may be commercialization, ad targeting, some of which could be intelligence gathering, some of which could be humanitarian efforts. Mm-hmm. There's just so many opportunities there, but I think it is critical to be able to get people give them a level of comfort that, their endpoint being their home address is not going to be vulnerable to harvesting by it, because that could be kind of scary. That's got some ramifications that could really be dangerous. Right.
And if we it's sort of a level of information about our lives. It's the amount of information that Google might have about the World Wide Web is gathered through Googlebot and XML sitemaps and so on, is probably a number of order of magnitudes smaller than the amount of information Google may collect about its users, how they connect to the web, where they go, what other services they might use. But that's a small part of the picture. If we think about some of the different ways that they're using it, some of the applications, uh, predictive algorithms, for instance, that will tell you if you're going to make your 3 o'clock appointment, you better leave now, and tell you which roads to take, because it knows which roads
Right.
are congested.
Right, where the traffic is, where there was a car wreck. Absolutely. Amazing. Amazing.
Right. So what's the mapping company from Israel that Google just acquired?
Oh, right.
That has a social element to it. People can report where they see speed traps, where they see protests.
Yeah, I shared that post with you, Doc. You're much better at remembering things. Do you remember the article? Doc, did we lose you? Seems Doc is frozen.
Okay. Yeah. So Google will
Yeah,
look at.
I can't.
Okay. Hello.
That's what happens when you're in Mexico.
Hey, be nice.
You get the piñata ISP.
Well, I'm happy. As much as I grumble about it, I'm happy to have a cable connection to the web.
Absolutely,
'Cause
absolutely.
you travel a little bit outside of the
Oh yeah.
urban part of the town I'm in, to the horse farms and the so on, and they've got satellite connections.
Hey, try doing this from Europe. It's really bad. So all the complaining we do here, we've got it much better. We've got it much better than the rest of the world. So no complaints.
Okay, so to jump into another technology that you
Yeah.
were talking about, and I believe they acquired a number of patents for this recently as well, is bringing the internet to people by balloons.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
I saw something about that.
That
Yeah.
was an interesting article. Yeah.
Uh-huh. So I'm not sure. We talk about some places, even in the United States, where there's really poor rural broadband connectivity
Hmm.
going. If you live on a farmhouse in the middle of a field that's surrounded by corn stalks, and your neighbors are miles away, uh, your chance of actually accessing the internet, you might have a phone modem if you're lucky. hmm Uh, how will it transform the world if everybody had a fast connection to the web? If Google Fiber project worked out well, got duplicated in other places, and the other internet companies said, yeah, we want to reach more people too, and we want to give them faster connections. If the White Space project, where companies can use unused space that used to be used for analog television, to bring fast connections to people, with a lot less towers than are required for the wireless we have now, with much longer reaches. How much is that going to transform the world we live in? When a doctor is performing surgery on somebody in Chicago and he calls in a specialist in Florida who's watching through a camera over the surgeon's shoulder, and saying, no, don't cut there, cut there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So at some point, the future of the web involves
Well,
real-time,
yeah. You're both.
instantaneous connections, or something very close to it.
But won't that trust factor still be very important, and Google will still be using the different patents that they have previously for quote unquote trust and relevance? I mean, how does that play into the evolution of those particular patents?